kind of girl that's into playing for keeps. Oh, baby, whether or not you choose to me, I know sometimes it's easy come or easy go. Girl, there's one thing that I know for
What's good, everyone, and thank you all so much for tuning in to my second ever full mall tour. Now, today's mall is the second of two indoor shopping malls in the Charleston, South Carolina regional area, And this one, located at the intersection of I-526 and South Carolina Highway 7, sits this 5-acre, ground-level, Jones-Lang-LaSalle managed property. And I do apologize if I screwed that up in some way, shape, or form. This mall is approximately 1,138,527 square feet in size and is home to, well, this is where things get a little bit confusing, because while the website lists this mall as being home to 100 plus inline stores, actually walking through it is all you need to do to see otherwise. As a local to this mall, I've been here several times since my original footage was captured in June 2023, and since then, several stores have closed. So I highly doubt the accuracy of 100 plus inline stores. Honestly, I think about 50 plus is more appropriate, but we'll go with what they say. Now, while the mall's main corridors are ground level, 3 of its 5 anchors are actually multi-level, those being Dillard's, Belk, and the MUSC facility inside of the former JCPenney. Now, Target is the newest addition to the mall's anchor roster, and the store does provide a large boost to the mall's foot traffic, which to me, Target is the main reason this mall even continues to exist. It's in the busiest side of the mall, the Target wing is the busiest, and the food court is closest to the Target, so you can kind of see where most everyone is usually at in this mall, and as someone that's frequented it most times, that's where everyone is. Everywhere else is just kind of sad, barren, lonely, and dead, aside from the Planet Fitness, and Belk and Dillard's kind of hold their own, but the old Sears wing is pretty sad. I did mention the Planet Fitness, and it, along with the Citi-Trends, which can be considered junior anchors, do help to somewhat decently populate this mall. The mall's aesthetics feature hard angles and diamond-like skylights accompanied with white potted planters and brown and beige and tan benches that are placed in several different spots along the walls or in front of anchor stores in the mall that I feel like really add to the sense of how barren it actually is. And those very seats, while conveniently placed, have probably hosted more dust bunnies and mildew than they have people in recent years. Maybe the future will be nicer to this place than the past, but one can only hope. And with that, let's dive into the history of Charleston's largest indoor shopping center, Citadel Mall. Like its rival Northwoods, Citadel Mall was also developed by the Ohio-based Jacobs Visconsi and Jacobs Group, which would later be known as the Richard E. Jacobs Group. The mall opened in 1981 with an anchor roster featuring Belk, Thalhimer's, and Sears. Now don't get comfortable though, because this anchor roster is going to change a whole lot. Now Belk had relocated from a dated 1950s store in nearby North Charleston. Sears had relocated from a freestanding store in downtown Charleston, while Thalhimer's was entirely new to the state. And it would only take 10 years before significant changes would already begin to occur at Citadel Mall. In 1992, Thalhimer's was acquired by the May department store company and would undergo a major rebranding to become Hecht's. You see though, Hecht's didn't actually operate any locations in the southeast region, and so the Thalhimer's space at Citadel Mall was sold to Dillard's, which would settle into a shiny new store that would only operate for 2 years. Dillard's would move into a larger 2-floor store built from the ground up in 1994, and this move would begin the long love triangle-like relationship between each anchor, with everyone popping and going like a dadgum Weasel arcade game around the mall until they were finally content with the space that they were in. Upon its opening in 1994, Dillard's would sell its former space, which was also the former Thalheimer space, to JCPenney. JCP would remodel their shiny new 13-year-old building and operate out of it for 7 years. They then would go on to sell their building, which was the former Dillard's, which was also the former Thalheimer's, to Target in 2001, who would finally demolish the tired old building in favor of a brand spanking, actually shiny, actually new building, where it stands and operates to this day. Taking a brief pause from the anchor love triangle, I wanted to highlight that the railroad crossing sign seen lighting up like an actual railroad crossing sign does, is meant to advertise the locally owned model train display exhibit that operates out of one of the old storefronts at the Citadel Mall every Saturday. It's only open on Saturday, and if you're ever around here for that, I highly recommend it. It's a really nice, cool place to go, and everyone in there is really kind. Anyway, resuming with the anchor store fun, you can see how there were significant changes in how the anchor stores were moving around. And the crazy part is that there was still more to be done. As in 2000, Belk would relocate from its original anchor space at Citadel into a brand new 2-floor store next to Dillard's, who had ironically done the exact same thing a few years earlier. Belk would sell their original location to the Birmingham, Alabama-based department store chain Parisian. Ironically though, Belk would acquire this same Parisian brand in 2006 and rebrand all Parisian stores into Belk. However, since Belk had just moved into a bigger, shiny new building 6 years earlier, they opted not to operate a dual anchor setup and would instead sell the former Parisian, which was also the original Belk, in that same year of 2006. And as if it had arisen from the grave, JCPenney would acquire the former Parisian and former Belk space from Belk in 2007 and open a new store, thus returning to Citadel Mall after a 6-year absence. And since we're looking at the former Sears entrance, I find it appropriate to mention that Sears was the only anchor store at Citadel Mall to remain in its day one location, having never moved in almost 3 decades. Now, on the subject of Sears, I find this to be kind of ironic, especially because every other anchor store at the mall had either moved to an updated building or made significant changes to become a better, newer face for oncoming customers. Sears, however, stayed in the same old space, in the same old place, with the same old face that it had for almost 30 years. So while Dillard's, Belk, and Target had brand new buildings, and JCPenney returned and renovated itself in a newer building, Sears did none of that. Now, I'm sure significant changes were made to the store since the 80s, but everyone else adapted, everyone else changed or moved, and Sears just stayed put. And if you know anything about Sears and Kmart stores since the Eddie Lampert acquisition, you know that it was frequently where nothing was being done to these stores. And as a fan of Sears, this kind of foreshadowing is just insane. Everyone else adapted and changed with the times, and Sears didn't, and thus Sears fell. As for the rest of the mall, it was doing reasonably well. Around the early 2000s, the Jacobs Group would remodel the entire mall's interior, giving it the look it wears today. This remodel also resulted in the addition of the food court. However, shortly after these changes, the Jacobs Group decided they were done with malls and proceeded to sell the majority of their mall portfolio to other brands. Citadel Mall would be acquired by CBL Associates and Properties Group sometime around 2005, and CBL had also happened to own rival Northwoods Mall as well. CBL would add Dick's Sporting Goods on an outparcel next to the mall in 2005 and labeled it as a sixth anchor, but honestly I wouldn't consider it as such just because there's no direct access from the mall to the Dick's Sporting Goods store itself. The mall also featured a freestanding 6-screen AMC theaters. However, the AMC would close on June 28, 2008 after its final screening of the Disney film WALL-E. This original cinema was part of General Cinemas, but was later sold to AMC until its closure. There were several plans of demolishing the existing building in favor of a multiplex, but those never materialized. The building was instead briefly reopened by Southeast Cinema for 6 months until it was later demolished and replaced with Citadel Stadium 16 in 2009, which is the current megaplex cinema that accompanies the rest of the mall. This was around the time where Citadel Mall arguably reached its peak. All of its anchor spaces were filled with strong names. It even featured a so-called sixth anchor with Dick's Sporting Goods nearby, as well as the IMAX cinema, and the mall was also located in an area that seemed to treat it well for the many years that it operated. However, it wouldn't take much to push the direction of the mall into a down spiral, and that's what had slowly begun to occur. In June 2013, Citadel Mall was featured in an episode of Food Network's Food Court Wars, with the grand prize being a free 1-year lease of a vacant food court tenant space in the mall. The winner did go on to use the space for their restaurant, but this wasn't long-lasting, and soon enough the space became vacant once again. In September 2013, U.S. Bank National Association filed foreclosure proceedings against Citadel Mall's owners, Citadel Mall CMBS LLC, a subsidiary of CBL & Associates Properties. This caused the mall to be acquired by a court-appointed receiver until a buyer was found. Spinoso Real Estate Group of North Syracuse, New York, was retained to manage the mall by the court-appointed receiver and successfully gained new tenants. Around this time, things actually began to look promising for the mall, as it was purchased by TMP SRE1 LLC, yeah, that rhymed, I know, in February 2017, led by Richard C. Davis. Plans were soon announced to upgrade the mall's list of tenants, increase entertainment, and build a multi-story travel sports facility on the mall's property. It was also around this time where the mall's current owner, Jones Lang LaSalle, replaced Spinoso as the mall's new manager. Unfortunately, all of the previously mentioned plans were just talk, however, and the real economical situation of the mall began to show true. JCPenney announced its Citadel location's closure, along with 138 other nationwide stores, on March 17, 2017. The store closed 4 months and 2 weeks later on July 31, 2017, and was subsequently leased by the Medical University of South Carolina for 20 years. Over a year later, in May 2018, Sears announced its Citadel location's closure, along with 42 other nationwide stores. The Sears was subsequently purchased by the mall for $7.55 million as the final portion of their plan to, quote, transform the mall into something more grand and consistent with the West Ashley revitalization, end quote. I'm not so sure how successful this was, considering that the space was leased by HBO in 2019 for the filming of the network's Righteous Gemstones series and otherwise goes largely unused. Not to mention that the building still retains its Sears retail store look. Another major plan of TMP SRE LLC was to rename Citadel Mall to Epic Center. Yeah, I think Citadel Mall works just fine. As I'd mentioned earlier, all of the plans made to redevelop the mall were just talk, as in January 2023, the mall was acquired by Singerman Real Estate, based in Chicago. Since this acquisition, 0 new plans or actions have been done to revitalize the mall as had once been said. Today, Citadel Mall sits in a weird position. All of its anchor spaces are technically full, and the food court is always packed on weekends. Dare I say that Citadel is even busy on weekends. I'm not sure what is to happen with the mall, but it appears to be holding itself over reasonably well for now. I battled with labeling this mall dead or not, simply because of the potential Citadel has left. I guess we'll just have to settle with endangered. Thank you all very much for watching my second full mall tour, and the completion of my documentation of both Charleston regional area malls. Until next time, make the best of your every moment, and I'll see you all around.